I'm Rachel McLeod. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and emotional wellness coach. And today I'm going to be talking with you about, is your brain your worst enemy? And gosh, you know that one of the things I do is help people use their brain and their brain's natural healing process, which brains have a beautiful process for this, to resolve symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress, and also, especially in complex trauma situations, to build things that have never been built before, like empathy, connection, security, secure attachment, um, inner safety, inner security, inner stability, emotional stability, confidence, joy. I help them rebuild all that, all while using the brain's process and to help use strategies to get the brain to build these. So I want you to hear that I'm over here insulted by this question. but because no, your brain is not your worst enemy. But I do remember the days where I was seriously and severely mentally ill, and I was mentally ill with an anxiety disorder and complex childhood trauma, and post traumatic stress. So, gosh, in those days, I could not navigate my brain. I could not figure out how to get off this ride, this awful ride I was in. And it felt like my brain was kicking my own behind. So I absolutely know what that feels like, and where you feel like you're being sabotaged, you're being set up for failure. You have to be hyper vigilant about your own brain activity because, oh my gosh, it's going to do that thing, and then I'm going to spiral down into the in down the drain, and it's going to take me 4 days to get out. So I absolutely understand this idea that where you feel like your brain is your worst enemy. And what I would say to that is really what's happening is your brain is programmed in a way that really hurts, and it's programmed and conditioned in a way that keeps you low, sabotages you, and keeps you reinforcing old patterns that you are tired of. And yeah, your brain is totally doing that. But I want you to also know that all of these symptoms of anxiety, depression, traumatic stress are actually your brain trying to solve your problem. It's trying to help you get rid of these symptoms. It's trying to help you reach your goals, and it cannot because of these issues that are coming up, these old memories, these old feelings, the anxiety. The anxiety is like your brain saying, "Hey, I think we're supposed to freak out about this. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but we're going to freak because that's how brains are wired." But really, if you can take that stuff that is that your brain is freaking out, that your system is freaking out over, and move that through your brain's healing process, all of a sudden that freak out goes away, and then your brain is like, oh, I've been looking for this information this whole time. Now I know what to do with this. And it takes this old information, this fear, this information about you, and all this negative energy, and it really converts it into stuff that's usable, and then mixes it in with all that you know, all that you want, your desires, your authentic self, and starts making new ways of being that are more informed about who you are, because that all these emotions, all that anxiety is bringing up information through your system about who you are, about the world. And it's very accurate information. It just hurts because it's not getting through your brain's healing process. And so your brain's not being able to use all this emotion, all this anxiety, all this depression and traumatic stress, is not being able to use it for growth. It's actually using it to keep harming you over and over again. And gosh, there's only one reason for that. And that's because your survival system in your brain is designed to keep you away from pain. And so when pain starts surfacing, it jumps in to shut the whole thing down. And then none of this information gets where it's supposed to go, and it's used to harm you. And so in this one case, your survival system is doing its job. It's like, pain, turn this thing off, run, fight, flight, freeze, right? But it's not really the scary stuff. This is our own system's process. This emotion, this pain, it really has to move through the process. And so really, when we really get in there, and this is what I help people do, and really work with your survival system, we can get your survival system to unblock your brain's natural healing process. And from that, you get all of this energy that is stuck in the form of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress, and grief, and overwhelm, and distress of all kinds, and your stomach aching, and somatic distress, headaches, tension in your shoulders, It really takes all that stuff and converts it into your next levels of wellness and expansion and connection and purpose and impact and clarity. And it is so, so powerful. And so I want to just say to you, your brain is not your worst enemy. And perhaps the idea that your brain is your worst enemy is your worst enemy. I don't know who your worst enemy is, if we're being honest, but it's not your brain. But I will tell you that to get your brain to become one of your best assets and one of your best teammates, and you've got symptoms, you're probably going to need to help it in a way that's very specific to it. I know you might think that you're already helping it now. I know you're doing things, you're meditating, you're journaling, you're doing all these things, and I get that. But the brain has a specific way of healing, and if you can help it through its process, you really get the win. If we're helping it through other ways that your brain is like, that's not working for me, and we're like, yes, it needs to work for you, and it's like, it's not working for me, then you're actually creating more disharmony in your own system, and you're reinforcing this idea that your brain is your worst enemy. And so really, it's time to learn how to work with your brain in a very powerful and effective way. And we can. Once you learn how to work with your brain effectively, you can resolve symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress within minutes, and really more complex issues in days, in weeks, in a matter of weeks. And so I really want to flip this idea on its head. I also want you not to be afraid of your brain. And I want you to know I was very afraid of my brain. I was afraid of triggering distress, like panic attacks. I was afraid of triggering shame. Gosh, I was afraid of triggering spirals downward and confusion. I just was trying to walk in my brain without causing any problems, but it doesn't work like that. That's how, if you fawn with your own brain, right? If you're like, whatever you want, brain, no, your brain needs help, not to get its own way all the time. It's not correct yet. It needs help getting correct. It needs to, if it's going to send you into a survival state, it needs to be accurate. It actually needs to be something that you need to survive over, not just somebody looked at you, right? That's the sign of confusion. That's a sign that your brain has not completed its process for understanding accurately the situation and the threats involved. Brains are good at this. And so I want to encourage you to call your standards higher with your brain. Expect more from your brain. And right now, if it's treating you like it's your worst enemy, or you're treating it like it's your worst enemy, we need to start creating harmony. And the more victories you and your brain create together, the more you will be trusting it, the more you will be leaning on it, the more you'll be supporting it, because you know if your brain gets what it wants, you're going to get what you want. That's how it works. A lot of times we're like, give me what I want, brain. And your brain's like, I'd love to, but I can't because this issue right over here, I don't get it. And so every time it comes up, I keep doing this because that's what I think I'm supposed to do. But I have some ideas that this isn't the right thing, but I can't figure it out, right? You help your brain figure this out through using its own process, which takes seconds to minutes. And the next thing you know, your brain is like, oh, I get it. Okay, so when this happens, it's not a threat. And actually, we're going to do this instead. Let's run the other program. It tells all the people in there. I don't know. I think they're people running boards or something. It tells them, let's change this whole thing up. And then they're like, yeah. And then they go try it out and you watch yourself behave differently. And then they're like, we did it. This is good. Everybody likes this. Then they go take it and make a subconscious program for you. And then pretty soon you're doing that automatically. You're not having to think about it. You're just doing healthier things and healthier things and healthier things. And the next thing you know, you look back and you're like, I used to be anxious about this. Or every time somebody confronted me about this, I used to totally melt down. Or I used to go to these gatherings and fawn all over people. I don't do that anymore. That's what I'm talking about. Your freedom to respect yourself, love yourself, feel mature. When we got symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress, we don't. We feel like we always need help. We need someone to help us. We can't navigate our own brain. And we don't feel, we can't walk in the world the same way, like we've got this. And we definitely can't walk in the world like I'm safe, I'm good for my children to be around. right? The anxiety is like, well, what if we're giving it to them? What if this? What if that? And what if they, and it's hard to be present in those moments. And your brain can resolve this. I'm telling you, I think your brain is the only person, the only thing that can resolve this for you. Yeah, medication might be able to help. And I'm for that. I love that there are some matching supports sometimes. I've seen, I had a client this week come in and I was like, ooh, what happened to you? Medication? Good. Now we're going to get to work deeper than we were before because they were in too much pain. I've had other clients try medication and it go very bad. I'm like, ooh, what happened to you? Medication, right? So I love it when it works. But either way, whether medication works for you or it doesn't, that's not solving the root issue. And the medication is a wonderful support. I'm so grateful it's here. And let's resolve the root issue so that your brain can solve these problems for you. And then you can decide if you want to keep the medication or not. Well, most people that I work with that eventually get to a point where they're like, I wonder if I need this anymore. And then sure enough, we resolve whatever the medication is doing for them as well. So another thing here is that, gosh, it's just like this what prompted me to come on here and rant on behalf of the brain is I got this email from a marketer that I really like. And she said that everybody knows your brain is everyone's brain is their worst enemy. And, that she was making a very good point. I appreciated her point. But I was like, what? No. And so that's why I'm here. And I think that's when we just settle for lower expectations, where we've had so much not fabulous results. We've had so much meh with all the efforts we've put in. And we're just like, well, this is just how it is. No, absolutely not. This is the most powerful piece of equipment handed to us. And when it's conditioned properly, or when it gets to do its healing processes, and it conditions itself when it gets to heal. It's like, oh, let's try this thing. And then it starts that path, and then it does it enough stuff, the conditioning, and then it starts sinking stuff into the unconscious level, right? And so, but really, when our brain can do this itself, this is where the magic happens. This is where you start trusting your own brain. You start trusting your ideas again. You start watching your brain supply you with confidence, supply you with joy, supply you with the tools to connect deeply, even when you haven't been able to before. The tools to have empathy for your children, even though they might be throwing a fit over something ridiculous, and connect with them even during those times. Because you know that we are going to throw fits over things that are ridiculous, right? And so this is, you watch your brain supply you with all these great things, and it's just awesome. And then after a while, you see yourself grow into a new position, and your brain's not supplying with this stuff, and you're like, what's up, best friend? And it's like, I'm new. I don't know, we've never been here before. I don't know what to put out here for you. And so you sit and you help your brain do this. You help your brain walk through its own healing and creation process for you. And the next thing you know, it's throwing out, what about that? And you're like, yes, this is the stuff. This is the stuff deep wellness is made of. This is where you are getting along with your brain. You're harmonizing. You're in sync with your brain. You are in synergy with your own brain, your own energy system, your own inner world. And this is where whatever you do, you're just making more and more wellness. That's a nice loop. Put me in that spiral, okay? Brain, take me to the upgrading spiral, the happiness spiral. That's possible. You can even talk to your brain like that. You can form these relationships with your brain, and your brain will tell you if it can do it or not. And if it can't, and it wants to, because it does, it wants all the things you want. It's part of you. You help it. Right? I've actually never thought about creating, like, put me in a wellness, synergistic, expansive, yummy cycle. A spiral upward. I've never thought to do that. I'm going to have to make an experiment on that myself. But the point is that your brain is not your worst enemy. And if you feel like it is right now, that's a sign that there are things that need to be resolved. There's work to be done, and there's a lot of work you can do, and you can come out of this very quickly with a brain that helps you, and that a brain that feels amazing and helps you make your life better and better. That's your brain's job, is to make your life better and better. If that's not happening, let's get your brain working on that. Let's give it the support it needs to help you do this. And so, gosh, if this is something you would like my help with, this is what I do. This is what I do all day when I'm not at home with the 5 kids, right? And with the husband. This is what I do. I've done this with a lot of people, and I can tell you, I haven't seen a symptom brains don't resolve. I would tell you if I had. If there was a symptom that we did the stuff and the brain did not resolve it, I would tell you. I will tell you. If it when it occurs, I will tell you. So really, I want you to see that, yeah, gosh, your brain is amazing. Do what it needs, the support, give it the support it needs. And so I was saying, if you want to see if I can help you with this, I invite you to grab a spot on my calendar to book a call with me. This is a complimentary call. And what we'll do during this time is we'll take a look at where you are right now, what symptoms you want to get rid of, and what goals you have. And then we'll create a step-by-step plan to get you there. And I do this because I totally want to give back. It's time to heal. It is time to have a phenomenal relationship with your brain. It's time to build that internal security. And also, I know you may want to work with me. And if that's the case, we'll talk about that. There's several different ways of working with me. And if not, that's okay too. As long as you're moving towards your goal, that's really what my goal is during this time. So grab a spot on my calendar by going to rachelmcleod.com/call. And then I will call you at the time that you choose. There's a brief questionnaire after you choose your time. So fill that out because that helps me and you get prepared for our call together. So, all right, I see that there are 2 comments, and I'm going to answer those. Okay, so just a moment here. Okay, Alex says, if you walked into a safe situation, what would you do if your survival system turns on? This is a great question because this is happening to people across the country multiple times every day. This is so common. Um, Please, all of us, be aware of this. And as a matter of fact, once your survival system turns on so much and is so alerted to fear and danger, you might actually lose your ability to believe it is safe. You might actually start believing that it is really unsafe and it's not. So you lose that opportunity to um, be in reality. Okay, and that's is not just for crazy people. This is not just for some other mental illnesses. This is how brains work. Once you're triggered, once your brain thinks it's not safe, and it thinks it's significantly not safe, it reaches some threshold that is specific to your brain. Your brain and my brain will tolerate different levels of safety and will interpret things as different levels of safety. That's okay. That's what brains are supposed to be doing. But once that happens, once you pass the threshold, you go into a survival state and your prefrontal cortex starts shutting down. And that's your reasoning and your logic. And so when you don't have that available to you, then and all you'll have is your survival system. So it's very difficult to think with clarity. So really what I would have anybody in this situation do is start using an intervention. You do not need all these amazing skills. I teach people amazing skills. By the time people are done working with me, they have better skills than most therapists in their community, period. But in these moments, you don't need any complexity. You don't need any phenomenal advanced skills. You really just need to crank your brain's process for resolving this survival state and getting out of a survival state. Right? You're cranking it. Really, you're using an intervention. And I would encourage, I help match people with the intervention that works best for them. So I don't know which one that would be for you, but the ones that I know work the most, or not the most, but the most frequently, are emotional freedom techniques and thought-filled therapy. Those are interventions I give trainings on in my Facebook group, Releasing the Baggage of Anxiety, Depression, and Traumatic Stress. And I also send you those if you sign up for my email list so that you can try them. If it works, fabulous. Resolve as many symptoms as you can or want to. But especially be equipped for when you walk into these situations that are safe and that you begin to think are not safe. That is a nervous system thing that has nothing to do with your logic. That is not your fault. This is how your nervous system is programmed, and this is how your brain is interpreting something in this environment. And I don't argue with that. Let's just help your brain figure it out. So, um, yeah. So that's all I have for tonight. I'm going to jump off, even if there are more comments. I will come back to them later because I have uh, another meeting to jump onto. But wonderful connecting with you all. Enjoy your brains. Really create beauty with your brains, and I hope you get to experience your brain as one of your best friends. Take care. Bye.